Hello everyone, it's Rebecca with the Bible Art Journaling Challenge for you. Thank you for joining me. I want to offer a very special welcome to all the readers of the Heart Journal magazine, which is a wonderful digital magazine dedicated to art journaling, which I've been featured in for the March 2015 edition. It's great to have you all, as well as our many new participants joining me today. I really appreciate it. In my weekly challenge, I record myself art journaling in my NASB Note Taker's Bible, which you see me showing a quick flip through in here. I am really enjoying taking so many of you on this journey with me. As a quick reminder, you can always head over to RebeccaRJones.com in order to see any of the previous challenges. If you follow my Facebook page, you probably know that sometimes I like to Bible art journal in beautiful old Bibles like this one from the early 1900s. It's actually called the Self-Interpreting Bible. It's a disused one that somebody used to press flowers, and I'm going to be using Matthew 18 verse 3 for my challenge this week. I've got a sweet whimsical illustration in mind that I'd love for you to stick around for. As you see, I've just wiped down the surface because it's an old Bible and it was used for pressing flowers. I'm applying with a foam brush some Art Basics clear gesso from Prima Marketing, and really I would not recommend any other clear gesso but this particular brand, as it is incredibly smooth and will be easiest for applying any of the art supplies that you put over the top. And it does dry, as you can see, very transparent, which is ideal. This brand of clear gesso dries so matte that you have to actually feel around with your fingers to ensure that you've applied it on every area of your surface. Here you can see that I've gone ahead and sketched a little illustration in, and now I'm erasing any of my marks, just leaving a faint impression of what I had there previously. After erasing it, I gave it another good wipe down with a paper towel to ensure there was no leftover residue, and then moved on to my watercolor, which is this wonderful Peerless palette that I've made. And if you look at the magazine that I've been featured in, you can actually watch how I made this palette. These are watercolor that have been embedded into these little square sheets, and I've made this palette so that it can be easily transported and used and stored very easily. So I'm going in with this very vibrant watercolor and adding my first wash to my Bible page. Peerless watercolor are very vibrant. You really don't need more than just a few little taps of your brush that is wet onto the surface of the Peerless papers, and you've picked up and are able to transfer some amazing amount of color onto the surface of what you're painting. As you can see me do in previous challenges, I'm just simply putting down layer after layer of color, building up my color on my surface. So every time I do it, I give it a good blast of heat and then go on to layering it again and again until I'm happy with the result of the washes. And then I can start to put in some of the detail. So everything here is not really about detail at the moment. It's just about getting some color onto the page. You can see that I'm making a little girl here with a pink dress and pink shoes. I have a few old disused Bibles, and you can see a piece of paper from another Bible here where I'm using it to test out some different colors of hair that I might want to use for her. If I used just a white piece of paper, I wouldn't get the true color that's going to show up on this very aged paper. So once I was happy with the color choices, I went ahead and mixed a larger amount of it to see me through adding the lightest color of hair. So when you do this, you want to add the lightest color all over and then start to build color as you go, because this is the first wash and it's very light. And then once I've done that, I wanted to go in and mask off with masking fluid the entire girl so that I can then start to work on the background around her. This will keep her safe from the other colors that may come into contact. And you can see here that I'm also adding a little white highlight around the edge of all of my soap bubbles. Yes, that's right. She is actually chasing some soap bubbles in the air. So in certain areas, I'm putting in some highlights, and that means that whenever I add color, those will remain the same color as the Bible page. And then I've used a really thin brush here to add some hair highlights which obviously are just the color of the paper once I've removed them. So it will protect the color of the page. And I've used a mop brush here with some green and added my first wash of green up into the sky, keeping in mind that she is very short, so she's not actually going to be above the horizon line in the setting that she's in. So the sky is in fact green to her, and then below is the dirt that she's standing on. I love the fact that there's a lot of distressed feel to this image. Because the page is so old, there is a lot of aging feel to it, and I wasn't too concerned about any of the paint kind of blooming or doing really funny things on the page, because in actual fact it is a really old piece of paper and this adds a lot of character to it. I'm painting around the bubbles. Now that I've put one wash of color over the bubbles, I want to leave them alone and start to just focus on the color around them. Eventually I'll go in and add color specifically to the bubbles, but for now I want to leave them alone and just focus on getting a background. Here you can see me using my finger and very, very carefully removing the masking fluid that is completely dried from the bubbles and from the girl. And you wouldn't do this particularly carefully, so there's no chance of any tearing or anything like that. I did actually have a tiny little tear on her dress, and you know, it really is okay. This is an art journaling process. This isn't something that is about trying to sell professional work. This is about us spending time creating and growing closer to God as we meditate on His Word. So as you take time to do that with me, I hope that you will be inspired to just enjoy the process and not feel any need for perfection while you enjoy this. In my New American Standard Bible, Matthew 18 verse 3, which I'm creating for today, says, "Truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become like children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." This scripture could certainly be unpacked with lots of deep meanings, but I don't actually want to do that today. I just wanted to focus on the simplicity of childlike faith. Children don't need lots of complicated answers. They just enjoy the moment and trust fully those who are in their life. And I think that's the way it is with us and God. We just need to be willing to trust and able to just let go and have some fun and enjoy the season and life around us. Here you can see I'm creating a little bit of color on the bubbles, and then I'm moving on to her hair. I've used several different brushes to try and get all those tiny little details, but as you can see, it's just about adding some more color. And once I got her highlights in, I added a bit of a warmer color, and then I started adding her hair. And this is really the stage where everything just looks a bit ugly and you have to persist through. So I used a liner brush towards the end to get in some of those finer details and tried to use a flicking motion so that not all of her hair is specifically headed in one direction, because that wouldn't be very realistic. All of us have flyaway hair, and that's what I tried to do. And I wanted to give the impression of her bouncing up to grab the bubbles. So her hair needed to have a bit of bounce in it, and so did her dress. So I hope that I achieved that as best as I could. I could have spent hours doing this project so that I got every detail correct and it looked more realistic, but I really wasn't going for something realistic. I wanted a very whimsical, playful feel, and that really doesn't have perfection in it. I went over her arm one more time just to smooth the color out before moving on to her dress with a liner brush so that I could go over the ruffles with the darkest amount of color and then go in and smooth out the color with a little extra water, kind of stretching the color into the other areas of the dress until I was happy with it, and then moved on to creating a blue ribbon tie for the back of her dress and getting some nice dirt on those shoes, because she's playing and having a good time. She's not going to have perfectly pristine shoes by any stretch of the imagination. Well, that finishes my page for today, which means it's your turn to create. Don't forget to join our Facebook group or Google Plus community if you've not yet, and share your own creative response to this week's challenge. Please do pop over to my website and leave me a comment. I would love that. If you're interested in any of the products I used today or want to learn more about the Bible Art Journaling Challenge, you can have a look on my website for links to all of that information. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.